All right. Welcome, everybody, to Hacking for Humanity 2023. As you see here, this is our, just putting this up here for a second, our list of presenters this afternoon. Let me see if I can go back to the other background. We'll do this. Oh, that was nice. That was smooth. So we're really, really excited to have you all here today. Thank you so much for the time and energy you put in over the last week to create really exciting projects. I was looking over a number of them this morning, and I'm just really thrilled to have this slate of competitors here, as I say, in the program here. Thank you so much to our advisors. Thank you to our 6 judges in the back that'll be a part of this. So I'm going to ask Susan Baida in just a second to come up and say a couple of words about our topic here. But I just wanted to give a little logistics. So as I said before, what we're going to do is we'll have about 3 minutes to present your work. And then after that's done, we're going to try really hard to keep to those 3 minutes. So I won't try to be super rude, but you know, we got a lot to get through. Then we're going to have a couple minutes for judges to ask questions on any part of it. I'd ask people in the audience to hold your questions for like the networking and social hour later, and we'll just focus on what the judges want to know from the presentations. And then we'll just sort of keep cycling through. If a team is not here for that moment, I'm not going to kick them out of the competition. We'll just sort of catch up to them later till everybody presents. And if you have any questions in the meantime, you can just come and find me and ask me those questions. So without further ado, I want to introduce you the Executive Director of Collaboratory Against Hate from University of Pittsburgh and Carnegie Mellon, Susan Baida. Susan?
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for participating in this contest, Hacking for Humanity. My name is Susan Baida, and I'm the inaugural Executive Director for the Collaboratory Against Hate. For those of you who are not familiar with our center, we are a partnership between Carnegie Mellon and University of Pittsburgh, and the inspiration for this initiative was born out of the Tree of Life tragedy on October 27th of 2018, where 11 innocent individuals were shot to death at the Tree of Life Synagogue right here in Squirrel Hill in Pittsburgh. That event motivated so many researchers, faculty, staff on both campuses to get involved and to do something about what we're seeing today. I don't have to tell this audience that the number of hate crimes and hate incidents and mass shootings has escalated, reaching an all-time high in 2021. And the type of online hate and the hate that we're seeing in real life, in many cases, emanates from the speech and the hate speech that we're seeing online. And the radicalization is happening online. And what we're seeing is that a lot of it is being perpetrated by white supremacists, which are part of this far-right extremist group, which is growing and creating chaos in this country, and the purpose of which is to create the chaos so that they can dismantle what we have in our country, which is democracy. And so thank you so much for participating in this event, and I'm so excited to hear what you have to share in terms of how to address this issue of online hate from a technology and a policy perspective. We need to put an end to it, and your role in this competition is just one step in that direction. And I would also just like to thank John Slattery of Duquesne University and my partners here from other centers at Pitt and CMU who are involved in trying to address this escalating issue, and invite you to participate in our efforts to conduct more further research, deepen our research in the areas of technology and law. We're also focused on the business of hate and also the communities that are experiencing hate. So we have research in all of these areas, but it's so important that you are here today. We wanted to raise awareness about what we're seeing and the culture of hate that is growing, we need to put an end to it. And thank you for taking and giving your part to this effort and being part of this competition. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Susan. As we get started, I want to invite our first presenters, Divya and Apurva, up. So you can come up and start getting things connected, and we'll get started from there. So we'll sort of do that. And as it's going, whoever hasn't been to Duquesne's campus before, welcome to Duquesne. Glad you can make it over here and, you know, be a part of all the great things that we're doing here.
Thank you. Just give me 1 second. Hi everyone, I'm Apurva and I'll be performing this. I'll be talking about policy measures to mitigate online hate. My teammate Divya couldn't be here, but I hope I can do justice to all the work we've put in this past 1 week. So let me just begin by saying that I could tell you that 41% of people under 30 have experienced some kind of online hate. I could give you explicit statistics about how many people have lost their lives, right? But I feel like that's the problem. When we associate real people with numbers, we forget that even one person who's affected by online hate is one person too many, right? It's one person not achieving their true potential. It's one person giving up on their dreams, or in the worst case scenario, their life, right? So let's talk about the recommendations that we are proposing here. The first one that I'd like to get into is introducing the idea of digital ID. Now, our physical presences, there are so many kind of IDs associated with us. You have your SSN, you have your passport, driving license, so many kind of IDs just to prove you exist in real life, right? And so many of us spend time online. Why don't we have something similar there where every person should have one ID? How this can be done is using like platforms. It could be a third-party platform that uses like facial recognition and biometric technology to authenticate a person's online identity. And this should form a basis for them logging into any kind of social media platform or essentially validating their online presence, right? Most of the problem that we see right now when it comes to online hate stems from anonymity. When you have no consequences to your actions online, you're just going to get emboldened by the lack of those consequences, right? So introducing digital IDs might help in like curbing the number of duplicate accounts or burner accounts a person can make. It can tackle the problem of anonymity there, okay? By doing this, we can also, like by effectively identifying a person, platforms could also be more cognizant about how to accommodate these people. For example, if you're using a digital ID to kind of identify a person, their age, they could self-identify, right? If you belong to a vulnerable group, if you're a minor, if you are from the LGBTQ community, minority races, right? It's gonna help the platform to give you special accommodations by reducing your exposure to online hate. It could also increase the speed of resolution when it comes to reports being made by victims. Right now, reporting someone is a tedious process. If you've ever tried to like track down a particular hate message, right? It's so hard to do it because how do you trace it back? But digital IDs could really help in improving the speed of resolution. Now, there are challenges associated to this. Digital ID could be a very sensitive thing. We suggest it should be dealt with the same sensitivity that you give social security numbers. So the creation of and storage of them needs to be done with utmost care. The second thing that we would like to recommend is reforms to Section 230. Now, what exactly is this? Let me tell you the most powerful 26 words in the tech space today. No provider or user of interactive computer service shall be treated as the publisher or speaker of any information provided by any other information content provider. Sounds vague enough for literally every social media platform to kind of feign accountability for what's being posted there, as long as they are not the ones promoting this content. But in a way they are, right? They should be accountable for, at least in some capacity, to the content that they are hosting and promoting, in fact. An example I can use here is YouTube, right? So in 2015, in the Paris attacks, there was a huge role of YouTube in helping ISIS promote recruitment. Now, should Google be responsible? How do you kind of hold them accountable? Amending Section 230 is very necessary to kind of incentivize platforms to improve ways in which they can, control or moderate their thing. You could also stress upon moderating, being more transparent about the regulations that they're using to moderate content, and to make sure that you're not actively stifling free speech or innovation by implementing this measure. You can make sure there are independent regulatory bodies that are free of any political influence that could enforce this implementation. So yeah, in the end, I would like to conclude by saying that the prevalence of online hate seriously undermines the America's social cohesion and democratic values, and we insist that these recommendations should be acted on. Thank you.
Hello. Oh, okay. There we go. Thank you so much for the presentation. I thought that was really great. I did have a couple of questions related to both implementation and unintended consequences, particularly revolving around the digital ID proposal. Mm-hmm. So for implementation, did you discuss who would be responsible for creating this? Would this be a federally administered program? At the state level, so what mm-hmm. level, and then how would it be paid for? Like, presumably creating and storing sensitive data is going to be a very costly endeavor. So that's kind of my first, why don't I ask that, and then I'll ask the second one, so go ahead.
Yeah, so I can talk about the platform. When it comes to the technology, it already exists right now. So it will be implemented on the federal level for sure, because you want it to kind of be the entire scope. I think state level won't really help as much, right, when it comes to the costs associated. I think it has to be a third-party administrator. It won't really lie with the government, but it could be a form of public and private partnership where you do employ private actors to store this information, but make sure that they're properly regulated and there's no, the information is handled properly, I guess. An example I can think of right now, because I come from India. In India, even though making passports is a government endeavor, right? But we have employed partnership with TCS to kind of streamline the process and make sure everything goes smoothly. So I think public-private partnership is key in implementing something like that. That could also help with the budget where you're contracting it out. Yeah.
Great. And then my second question was about the potential unintended consequences, and I mean, presumably this would have to be administered beyond just the United States for it to be effective, yeah. But you, I think, correctly articulated privacy concerns, which would be applicable in the United States and many, mm-hmm. Other international contexts. But another one that I wanted to see if you thought about was authoritarian regimes could potentially then use this to target, human rights activists, political dissidents, people for whom anonymity online might be key to their ability to be engaged. So did you think about that?
Definitely. So here's one thing, a digital ID is not aimed at taking away the anonymity of a particular person. So the way it would work is when they are identified with malicious intent, that's when you can use the digital ID to trace it back to someone. But at least this information is not available to the general user. Like, of course, we would have to implement like really like proper security measures, and that's why again I feel public-private partnership would be key here, because actors that are international, like Meta, or even like Google, for instance, right? They won't give you someone's private information. They are protected by their own laws, right? So when it comes to digital ID, it can help you trace someone back if there's like a proper case against them, but the judgment lies with them, that whether they want to share this information outside or not.
All right. Oh, it worked. Good. Wonderful presentation. Thank you. My question relates to the timing of the digital ID. You mentioned social security numbers. We all have social security numbers. That comes at the time of birth, versus something like a passport where you have to apply for it because you want to use it to travel out of the country. And my concern is, and I guess this is one of the challenges that I'm questioning, is the difference between a child having a digital ID and adult. Because children have certain protections, and whether or not they have an ability to consent versus adults. When do you envision the digital ID attaching?
That's a great question. So the way we envisioned it is essentially like, when's the first time there's no particular time where a person would feel ready to have an account, like have a social media account. But this is essentially the first time they interact with any kind of online platform. They need to have, it's the same as having an email ID, your very first email ID that you use for everything. The challenge with email IDs is you can always have multiple ones, right? But with digital ID, you'll have your first one, and that will be your only one. When it comes to children, yes, like you cannot stop anyone from having an account, essentially, but if you're at least more mindful of their accurate age, and like, I think that should help them. Like, because I won't say that the internet is bad for kids. I can't, not allow them on social media, but at least if I know that they are children, it'll help me frame policies better to accommodate their presence in the internet.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Here we go.
Hopefully that works. Thank you.
It's set up to extend right now.
Okay. Is it on?
Here, mind if I join real quick?
Yeah.
Let's just do this. We'll go here, system preferences, monitors, and then we need to set up the arrangement to mirror.
Thank you so much.
No problem. And then I'll let you bounce back to your.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna just introduce us.
Hello everyone, I'm Tessa and this is my good friend Emily. We are UX designers, and what that means as a design team is UX is the process that we use to create products that are meaningful and relevant, create meaningful and relevant experiences for the users across platforms, websites, and other products.
So one of the topics that we wanted to really focus on was making it more of a personal experience. Even though social media is sometimes hiding behind screens, one of the quotes that we liked was that online hate is also reflective of our real world environment.
As part of our process, we conducted some research through a survey on how people feel the idea of what comes to mind with online hate, and looked more into the problem of that online hate increases. We got some experiential feedback that there is anonymity on online platforms that makes people feel like they can hide behind the screen and have a lack of accountability. And overall, we wanted to focus on that person's feedback of how we don't actually see the other person on the other side of the screen and how it might affect them. Statistically, 81% of Americans agree that social media platforms should do more to counter online hate, which is a very high and strong number to create change within our platforms. And we also wanted to take in ethical considerations of that there are factors and identities that people should celebrate and not have to feel as though they have to change to be able to fit into these social groups. So ethically, experientially, and statistically, we are looking at what does it mean to create social groups online and in the online environment that don't create divide, but create a healthy environment that allows us to grow together as groups.
So our problem that we came up with after surveys and interviews, social media users need a way to evoke empathy because of the perceived lack of consequences, resulting in an emotional response that creates division.
With that being said, after we recognized that the problem was evoking empathy and being able to mentalize another person, we realized that there is a huge opportunity here. There is an opportunity to allow the user to have more intentional communication online while viewing the other person as the individual they are, rather than just the screen.
So our quick low-fidelity wireframe, we decided to just focus on social media here because a big part of our research and data that we got said that comment sections are where a lot of the hate happens. So here in the next slide, we'll show you exactly what we're talking about. But there's the little pink circle at the bottom. That would be like your profile picture, and then directly across from it, there's another circle. That would be the person who you're commenting on their photo or video or whatever it is. Then you can explain.
In order to create more intention and slow the user down without making them add an extra step into the design process that might frustrate them, we relied on the basic human patterns that already exist in our technology today. That is swiping through your phone to answer a phone call, or scrolling platforms have that now, and that is the way we would send it. So our technology is we redesigned the send button, the post comment button. It has an arrow going through each beginning and end of the letter to indicate that you swipe through it, and it relies on the human pattern to scroll your individual picture across the screen to the other person, or if this is in a group situation, because many platforms allow for online communities, it would look somewhat of a cluster like group chats do of people. The hope behind this is that you would recognize that you are actively sending a message to someone, communicating with someone, and just the idea that there's a little bit extra step of thought that goes into sliding across rather than the impulse rapid click of a post button that exists today.
So just to wrap this up, we have a couple solutions here. The mentalized part of it, the ability to recall that the person on the other side is a person. Intentional, we're taking a little bit more time, but not interrupting the user's experience by sliding instead of just pressing send very quickly, and physically seeing your face go to the other person's face. And then connection, making a more personal communication online with others. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any questions from the back?
Thanks so much for the presentation. I just had a clarification question on if you've thought about anonymous accounts. Would this be just for platforms where users have to provide a picture and there's a little bit more information about that? Or do you have thoughts on how this could be applied to anonymous?
So we were kind of hoping that it would cause people to, well, hopefully become more personable, but with the anonymous accounts, we were trying to maybe eliminate more of like a, I don't know what I'm trying to say, like a, Like an
Yeah,
anonymous?
we do recognize that there's a lot of accounts out there that aren't associated with people's names and faces, which is the problem of anonymity and the lack of accountability out there. So in the redesign of the button, we thought that prompting them to have that picture might help with that. And even if it is not their face, it is something that is representative of who they are and whatever identity they're putting out on the screen. Whether it's a face of someone or an image of something or a symbol, it is still representative of who they are and their purpose of that online community. So regardless of whether it's face-to-face, we figured that if there is not even the actual profile picture of the face, that even the movement of the physical movement of sending one icon to another would create in your mind the idea that you are actively sending something to another person online. So we do recognize that you can't always get someone's profile picture on there.
Yeah, we were just hoping to kind of eliminate a little bit more of that, but we know it's probably not going to
tall task.
completely be gone.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I have one. Thanks for the presentation. That was great. Is there a flip side to this where like certain hate speech occurring based on people's race and having would that increase hatred towards other people, other races, having that picture up there available for someone to comment on, and is there a risk there?
That definitely is a risk, and I think also a limitation. I think with seeing a profile picture, if you choose to have it of your face, we're hoping to possibly, with the slide, have that person or user take the time, hopefully, to be like, okay, is what I'm sending, like even that quick millisecond, is what I'm sending something that I'm proud of or something that so I do think that is a risk, but at the same time, we're just trying to slow down users' brain just by as little as possible. Hopefully they're put something out that they're proud of.
We did discuss that that is a risk too, but I also just want to add that we, as much as we're focusing on online hate and how it creates division, we also want to focus on how online communities can bring people together and celebrate these identities. Yeah. So having the profile picture for different ethnicities and races and anything that you, or religions, anything that you identify with, we don't want to just eliminate that together. We want to celebrate those people and try and evoke empathy. So while we do run the risk of still having that impulse bias, we are trying to just slow everything down just a little bit without disrupting the human pattern to kind of shift the empathy mindset that is currently out there. Sure.
So I really like your idea, and this is a nice, I think it's kind of elegant. There's not a very simple solution. I do have one concern, which is after the user has used this for a little bit of time, they build up their muscle memory, right? And then they're not thinking about it anymore. They just know, okay, I got to swipe to send. So do you have any ideas of how you could counter that so that it just doesn't become a habit just like all the other things? Thank you.
Do you want to take that?
If you have an idea.
Okay. We do recognize the human pattern. That's one thing we discussed as a challenge because in user experience, you don't want to add too much of an extra step to frustrate them. We are trying to make it more efficient for users, but we do recognize that there is a muscle memory. My thoughts on that is the slide across, even though it may be a muscle memory, takes just a little bit more movement than a tap. And while it will be in muscle memory, we hope that there could be just even that split-second chance it gives them to think about that. And maybe this is an opportunity and ways we could expand the design going forward. This is an iterative process, so we're constantly researching and going back and taking what we're learned and putting it back into the design. UX is not a fixed design, so we hope that maybe if this was tested out more for a period of time where that muscle memory would be created, we could figure out the movements, whether that's up and down or side to side, of what movements invoke different time responses and emotional responses.
Just to add to that super fast, sorry. We had a first idea of pressing and holding the post button, still having it a picture of the person you're sending it to, but we thought that the press and hold would be too long, even if it was 2 seconds, and it would disrupt the user's experience. So we could go back to that idea if it's, like she said, it's kind of just evolving. But that was the idea we came up with, but definitely a limitation and concern for sure. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Adapter. Thank you. I'll just take a second to pop up on the screen here.
Oops.
Actually, if you just go and if you hit this button right here, perfect. You're good to go.
Hi, today our group is here to present a policy on creating a hate hygiene index in order to tackle online hate. Currently, hate is on the rise, and online hate is leading to real-world violence, such as the spread of the COVID-19 being called the Chinese virus, and that has led to violence against Asian Americans. Yet, the First Amendment and other US laws fiercely protect our freedom of speech. Therefore, it's hard for us to pass laws like the EU Digital Services Act or Germany's prosecution of individuals posting hate speech. US laws allow censoring of harmful but not hateful speech. That's why we have a reliance on technology platforms as moderators. However, we don't have access to their data, and these platforms use different metrics to report transparency. And so we have to take their words at face value. That's why we're proposing the Hate Hygiene Index, a measure of online technology platform effort to tackle online hate. How? We recommend A, access to data from the tech companies in order to increase transparency. This is an opportunity that has become available with the new legislation, the Platform Accountability and Transparency Act, and also access to technical experts who are able to identify the right data that we need to request. B, belief in free speech. Protection of free speech as a measure in the index helps to protect against overcorrection and censorship. And C, we believe in community-centered design, using the lived experience of those impacted by hate to help create the metrics for what is the definition of hate. And D, an informed and diligent public. We hope that the Hate Hygiene Index will be able to inform and empower the public, users, advertisers, investors, in order to be able to monitor, self-advocate, and choose which platforms they want to engage with. Our framework wants to be inclusive all the way from the creation of the metrics, all the way to the collection of the feedback, and in order to improve the transparency and create a shared vision and a shared language between different stakeholders. The index will be able to help users determine how they want to engage with the platform. For example, if there's an increase in hate against the LGBTQ community, we would expect a lower index score. In the past, when LGBTQ individuals have experienced hate on Twitter, they posted less and limited who they interacted with. With the index, they don't have to experience this firsthand in order to be able to make these choices. The index will also be able to inform the general public and the advertisers about how to use the platform to engage in allocating their marketing expenses. For example, frustration over hate speech had peaked and led to 400 different brands boycotting Facebook, resulting in a loss of $56 billion in ad revenues and an 8% drop in stocks. With the Hate Hygiene Index, we don't have to wait for it to reach such a boiling point. Advertisers will have this information, and the platforms themselves will also know how they benchmark against others. This is not a one and done. The index will be reiterated and developed with input from all the different stakeholders who are engaged, and We hope that this will help to create an empowering ecosystem that's accountable, safe, kind, and inclusive for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, wonderful presentation. When you're intending for your index to be utilized, do you want this, and using the US as an example, are you intending that the government adopt this for all forms of social media having kind of a ranking, or do you envision it more as something like LEED ratings? You know, if you're a green building, you get to post your sign that you have a LEED building.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the last part again?
Yeah, so when you have a green, this is the reason I came up with it. This is a green building.
Yep.
And it has the LEED award, and it's like an index. You have to meet certain qualifications. Is that what you're envisioning, or do you want it more adopted as like a US regulation?
We want to adopt it as more of a US regulation. We think there are other legislations in place in order to gain access to data already. And this is not only creating a requirement to build this score, but also creating kind of putting together a committee or a team of technical experts who can go out and do the research with the impacted communities to get this index, and also to communicate with tech companies about what measures are the right one to collect.
There we go. Thank you. This was it's a really interesting and I think innovative idea. I was wondering if you thought through any potential challenges or unintended consequences, and maybe especially if it is something that the government is going to regulate. Like, I can see already, companies pushing back on that and saying, like, why does the government get to grade me or rate me? Will there be bias against certain types of speech? So, like, I guess, what did you talk about as potential challenges with this approach?
Yeah, definitely. I think with regulation and innovation, there's always kind of a trade-off between allowing the freedom to innovate and having regulations that protect the safety of people. The best way we've thought about that and seeing parallel between like the automotive industry and the safety regulations there is to continue to build a collaborative process. Industry will continue to come up with industry standards, and they know the technology very well. So it needs to be an iterative process. I think what's really important is the team that the regulation will put together as the technical experts who will go out there and kind of be the go-between between these different stakeholders. If you see from our diagram, we put the hate hygiene index at the center because we see them as a facilitator between different stakeholders. So we're not doing like a top-down regulation that this is what you should do, this is what you should not do, kind of like not a censorship, but more a collaborative process of how can we build something that's responding to the needs of all the different stakeholders.
So I'm curious about your decision to have this be governed by the FCC, making this a government product. If you look at other things, for example, how movies are rated, how video games are rated, those are industry groups, and those are voluntary, right? And so I wonder why you went with this approach rather than something like that.
Definitely. Do you want to add about the advertising piece and the media rating?
You can answer when I add it.
Okay, sure. Yeah, we've looked at, for example, the media rating. We've also looked at from the automotive when they come up with industry standards. And in some way, those are really important. They definitely have a power of their own in creating what they're doing. But currently, we already see the platforms that are trying to do that. There are already reports on transparency. There are already efforts to combat online hate. But as we see, it's still happening. So it's currently not enough. And also, it represents just one view coming from the platforms themselves. I think government is able to speak to something that's more of a public good, such as the protection of speech and the protection of the happiness and freedom and safety of other groups. So I think that's why it's really important to have government without the profit incentives of platforms to help create a standard.
I want to add in a bit. I think the question is also about like why we don't let the public post any review or comment on the platform. And I think the answer is that it's also about accountability because the definition of hate is different among different group of people. Opinion can be very various out there. So we want to standardize with the mean of this HHI index. We will make sure to like work together with the group of affected communities, the group of LGBTQ, Asian or whoever who are affected to come up with like agreed means of what is hate for them. So yeah, we just want to standardize that and make sure that this HSI is going to be the communication mean for that.
Just like one last thing to emphasize, like the index still exists and it's merely there to inform every party, like every stakeholder, like the affected community, platform, and advertisers and the public audience, they all still can do whatever they want. It's just like this HHI is meant to inform about the state of the platform and how they can do better in the future.
Yeah, it's ready. Why is it like this? Use slide. There we go. Not there yet. Let's see. Make sure that we're still here. I am unfamiliar. Let's see here. Okay, doesn't look like this is popping up.
Can't get it working. You can email it to me. We can come back in a few minutes and do the presentation. Didn't we just have it?
Let's see, I just don't see it on the main screens, however.
I hope so.
Sorry.
Maybe try another port. Wasn't it
That's
on?
why I just swapped the port that wasn't on the screen behind us, however.
Wouldn't be a tech presentation without tech difficulties. It goes hand in hand.
Yeah, right on cue.
Yeah. Feels right.
Let's see, yeah, it seems as though that it sees it, but it is actually not passing through to the projector. If we can move this presentation to a separate device, I can give that a go,
The
but.
only thing is we have code on here that we're gonna demo.
Okay, yeah, that won't work at all for us then.
It's up to you.
Okay. Yeah, unfortunately, I'm just not seeing this come up. Why don't we jockey and we'll try them again with a different converter in a moment.
Okay.
Okay.
That way she doesn't demo.
Is this the thing to get this clicker? Yeah, we don't need the clicker. We're up here.
You guys are good to go.
And do you need us to speak into the mic for the thing, or if we project? Gotcha.
So I think we should just line up, and then I'll go to the back when I'm done. All right. All right, good afternoon, everybody. So the policy recommendation that we drafted aims to protect victims of hateful, non-consensual deepfake pornography, which we will be referring to as NDP throughout our presentation. So as a bit of background, if you don't know what deepfakes are, these are videos, photos, or audio recordings that seem real but have been manipulated by artificial intelligence. These disproportionately affect women, so 96% of the deepfakes online are pornographic in nature, and nearly 100% of those are targeting women. NDP has some very harmful real-world effects. This can be traumatizing or distressing for victims, as well as facing harassment and employment discrimination.
So we believe that there are some shortcomings that were currently in place in the law. Primarily, like going to court and having that litigation is an enormous barrier to justice. There's also currently no informed policy that covers about how to remove an NDP from the internet space once it's up there. As well as Section 230 at the moment also eliminates platforms' liability to host and leave that content up there. We're thinking about implementing something to give an incentive for companies to take that down. So when thinking about implementing DMCA and copyright takedowns to use this, protects copyrighted material. However, NDP victims do not often own those copyrights, which would be convenient for them and very useful for them to be able to take down that content. DMCA also serves generally as a framework for this policy intervention.
Yeah, so as Ryan suggested, we're going to use DMCA as a framework to address NDP. We're not actually using copyright law here. But the idea is there's three main steps. We want to empower victims by providing an NDP notice and takedown regime. So the first step is we're going to require all platforms identify an NDP takedown agent, just like they would for like the DMCA. Then victims can privately notify these platforms when NDP is found online. Then that agent or that website will be responsible for removing the offending content once they've received a valid notice. Now, we want to impose a civil penalty for companies that don't comply with this NDP takedown regime. In order to do that, we will have to add an amendment to Section 230 to enforce NDP laws. There's already a few exceptions to enforce like intellectual property, enforce sex trafficking laws. So we believe that this is very much like politically feasible and it's the same type of narrow exemption. And a third sort of policy recommendation outside of like the policy world is providing this funding for partnerships with private sector to build like database of NDP sites and offenders to build a pattern of abuse, to build cases for victims, as well as to like help start to prevent like re-uploading of this content, as well as create a site that would have like draft notices so people don't need to consult legal counsel, or they can get resources for like other victims of sexual violence. There's some really great resources out there, and we'd put that in one central repository.
So the policy response here is meant primarily to empower victims of NDP from the beginning of the process through the very end, and to give them resources at the end of that process. So one of our main objectives is to remove this, the process of getting this content taken down from the public view in a court case, to make that a private process that can happen with a takedown notice like happens currently with DMCA. So removing that from the court process directly. Great. But making sure that that content is taken down to ensure that harassment does not happen going into the future, and that this content does not follow folks. And then, like Miles mentioned, making sure that some of those resources are hosted on that .gov website to make sure that victims have access to resources and tools to assist them moving forward. And another goal of this program is to make it, put some of the ownership on the platforms themselves, give them an incentive to monitor and remove NDP content, like, again, currently happens with copyrighted content under DMCA. So giving platforms that incentive to avoid court cases and that civil penalty to do their own monitoring to make sure this content is not hosted on their websites. Thank you.
All right, yeah. Thanks for that presentation. It's a really interesting idea. I was thinking would the only way to flag that type of content, would that be the victim to make a complaint? Or have you thought through any solutions where like monitoring processes happening on these platforms to detect these and have them removed immediately?
Okay, yeah. So when it comes to this stuff too, like already presently, there are already things that are in place within current like social media platforms to recognize this type of content. So like, for example, if I were to upload, or if you were to upload a song that I own, I would be able to find that. So if so that would be able to like access that information without necessarily having to upload a kind of like request to have that taken down. So normally, like, because that's a copyrighted type of content, that would be something that would be flagged and immediately sort of, you wouldn't be able to make money off of that, you wouldn't be able to do anything with it, and it would be, okay, yeah.
So copywritten content, but for like deepfakes that are created by AI based on pictures of other people, does the technology exist to automatically flag deepfakes online currently, or have you done any research on that?
Yeah, so our understanding is like Google, Twitter, like there are these big platforms that are trying to regulate this. And you are correct, like this sort of puts the burden on the victim to identify it and flag and send the notice along. The idea here, sort of that last point about incentivizing the DMCA, sort of to Ryan's point is, when the DMCA came out, now you can't like upload copyrighted music to YouTube, they already identify that. So we are seeing that as, it will still be the burden of the victims to report this stuff, but they're not gonna want to deal with thousands of these requests. So that's where that incentive sort of comes from, is automatically identifying and like taking that stuff down. So this is, the idea is that's going to promote that innovation to detect stuff beyond sort of what's already out there today.
Thanks.
You do mention the civil liability in case no one is compliant, if someone's not compliant with this. Do you envision the civil liability to the platforms or to the poster?
So already there are laws, like if you, like revenge porn, we write about this in a memo, but like revenge pornography is something that there's a civil claim that you can bring. So the liability would be for the platform fundamentally, and that's why we need that Section 230 revision, so that we can hold them accountable. And yeah, that's essentially what it boils down to, is it's holding platforms accountable for this content, because there already are those means to pursue legal action against individuals who post this type of content. One of our research points was like, in Virginia, for example, they have explicitly said that this type of stuff is legal under a criminal penalty, so that means exists. And another point that we bring up in the memo is, this does not sort of preclude them from going forward and then bringing a legal case. This goal is really scoped out to take this content offline so that victims can like go forth and live their lives without this looming over them in the digital world.
Thank you so much. That was great.
Oh, yes. There you go.
Yeah, I have it. In the other case, I have an USB. Can I do it in?
We can USB into the computer, yes. Yeah, if you have it on a flash drive, we can load it on this computer
Yeah,
too.
sure. Sounds good. Sounds
I have it switching back to the
Oh,
lecture
I see,
computer here.
Yeah. One moment. Oh, okay.
And then there's a keyboard tray down here. Let's navigate up there to my computer. Here, you can actually see a lot better right here.
How should I?
And you can hit the full screen button right here. Perfect. And there you go.
Okay, guys. I would like to introduce you CAM. So basically an AI-powered platform to mitigate hate online. So the current problem with hate online is there are a few problems. First, it's very difficult to identify what is hate because human emotion is a wide spectrum, and you could see that it could be. So the current approach with sentiment analysis is they just do like negative or positive, and also they just do like single instant prediction. So for example, you have a chunk of text that will predict it is the negative or positive, but in reality, the tweet is actually, the tweet classification is not that simple. If you could see a few examples. For example, I hate you so much, I couldn't handle your arm, for example. If you just classify the tweet by the text, it will be negative. So what I want to point out is for human emotion, there are actually a lot of information, such as context, intent, tone, cultural, relations, right? So what we propose here is we want to represent the data as like graph. Okay. The reason why we want to identify the data as graph, for example, for the current approach, they just do, as I mentioned, they just do single instant prediction. So now if you have like different person with different ID in represented as a graph, you can see the connection between those person. And actually a very good indicator is the reply of, for example, one post. For example, like for one post, everybody is like reply to it negatively. So that is a very good indicator of that. So we try to make the product to be able to reach a larger scale. So we have so basically this is how we approach the problem. First, we're gonna go across the like different location, and then we collect the general sentiment of that region, and then we will narrow it down into like, for example, hate, or maybe some just like negative emotion. So those people need support, right? But the point here is like by classifying the hate, we can like identify which one are the threats, and actually the threats are really dangerous. That could be violent or something. So we're gonna immediately flag it. And the second part is we want to identify who are the victims of these threats, and we want to reach out to them. As I mentioned earlier, when we represent the data as a graph, we can see that, okay, there are a group in this community who are more sensitive to this type of hate. For example, there are some community who are more sensitive to race hate or gender hate or so on. So we want to do first, identify the problem, and the second one is to support the smaller communities. And who are our users? So actually, we have three main targets. The first one is policymaker. When you are a policymaker, when you see a number, when you see a heat map, it's easier for you to make a decision. And the second one is research institute who want to do more research on this problem. And the third one is NGOs who actually care about improving the society in general. So yeah, we still have many things to do. So as you can see on the heat map, there's a correlation between population and sentiment. That is one thing. The second one is model validation. That is one thing we need to work on, and also we need to work on other type data like audio, media. Also, but the key point is we want to say that okay, we will be here, listen to you, to share your feelings with the victim. So everything gonna be okay. Keep calm. Thanks.
Thanks for the presentation. I appreciate that you talked about all the context cues that are needed in identifying hate. I was a little bit curious that you were looking at sentiment scores just because of that context, because you brought up examples of sarcasm,
yeah.
And also the idea that hate speech identification isn't always about an emotion, that, you can hate Mondays or you can, but that's not what we're talking about. It's very specific. It's like bias related and things. So I don't know if you had thoughts on why you chose sentiment or other alternatives that you were thinking of.
So actually, is the reason why we choose this approach is it's actually a little bit random, but we got an idea that, for example, for any tweet, like when you post something, you have your friend reply, right? So actually, the content of your reply tweet is actually a very good indicator. For example, you're saying something very negative, but your friend like joking about that. In that context, it is not like something negative or so. Even like for tweet with like negative words like I hate or like I don't like it or something, but so that is the reason why we chose this.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, using the replies, that's good.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation. I was curious whether you thought through how this would get used. Who would use it? What decisions would be made based on the outputs of your model? Let's imagine that the model is built.
Yep.
Who would use it? What decisions would be made? And how would you incorporate those decisions into like the model validation process, for instance?
Okay, so by using the graph representation, we can categorize like different type of hate. For example, as I mentioned, I would say that we could find the community that are more sensitive with this type of hate, and some organization, for example, NGOs that for example, this organization is just focusing on this community. They could like use this information to reach out to them to mitigate the impact that they got.
Right. So I guess the main intervention there would be to not necessarily to identify perpetrators of hate speech, but to identify victims and have mitigatives.
I mean, it goes both ways because like some kind of hatred is very dangerous. For example, threatening somebody is unacceptable. But like there's a thin line between suppressing the freedom of speech and protecting the people. So I don't know, we try to do both ways.
Right, thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Guys, I'm feeling good about this one.
Okay. Message came up, that's good. All right.
Hello again. So we are Team Rubik's Cube. I'm Chris. This is Vikram and Daniel. We took the tech track and we built a hate speech classifier. So how it works is we took a pre-trained word vector model and we used FastX and XGBoost to classify them and determine what constitutes hate speech and give it different ratings. And then that would be, then we would run tweets through it and that would determine the rating for it.
Yeah, so we used FastX to
well, we started out with tweets, and we had to process this and like turn into something that can be more easily analyzed. So we used fast text, which can create 300-dimensional vectors from words or sentences or blocks of text. And then we've used XGBoost to create a binary classifier based on whether the tweet was hateful or not. And we used a data set on Kaggle, which had a variety of tweets which were labeled as hate speech or not to train this model on. And we were able to get an F1 score of 95%, so it seemed to work pretty well.
And we thought that we wanted to put a focus or emphasis on community moderation, so we don't think that it should just be technologies that do the grading and the flagging. We wanted to create some platform where users could vote on whether or not tweets were considered hate speech that could then reinforce the technology. So as you can see in the diagram, once a tweet is flagged from the model, it will be sort of displayed for the user to then vote on, and that data would then be aggregated and captured for the Twitter policy team or whatever policy team. And you may ask how we would incentivize participation in this platform, and we didn't implement it, but an extension of this idea could be to use Web3 technologies where you vote with your wallet or your key pair, and you get maybe a small micropayment for participating in taking down or moderating hate speech. And so just a final point, again, we think it's important that we don't just have machines that make these decisions for us, that there's some human aspect to it, and it's not just a small policy team at Twitter, but it's the wider community. And we thought this was a good solution to do that. We're not policy experts, so we just want to build the system and let the policy teams deal with it. And we're actively marketing this to Elon Musk because we heard that his policy team is not there anymore. No, I'm just joking, yeah. But that's it, yeah, thank you. Oh, did you want, oh, sorry, I think you want to talk about the algorithm?
Oh, I mean, just
Are you good?
talked a little bit, but yeah, XGBoost is just like a variation of a random forest classifier. And yeah, we were just able to take in all the dimensions of what the fast text model gave us. And yeah, we have a demo to
do have a
show.
demo.
So let's see, should I just?
Yeah, exit out.
Yeah. Let's see.
Run it from there.
Yeah, we can just run this right here.
Sure, right from the terminal.
Yeah. Yeah, we can, well, I'll
Let's
just do it from right here, yeah.
Yeah. So this streams tweets in real time. We connected to the Twitter API, and then it will run through the algorithm that we have, flag the tweets.
We apologize for the.
We do apologize for the.
I'm kind of glad that this is not showing up right now.
This is like real life hate speech.
It's not.
Oh, just slide it over? Okay, well, I don't know if I want to show. I don't know if I want to show this one. That didn't do it. Is it the other way? Oh, just like.
Drag it over to the desktop.
Hey, just let him come up here.
Okay.
This is.
Okay, let's do this. We need to unfull screen. It won't let me unfull screen.
Why did that happen? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it won't let me unfull screen application.
All right, let's. Oh, I think it's just big right now. There we go. Smaller.
Okay, then just grab anywhere on the toolbar and zing it to one side or the other.
Okay.
Let's go the other way. Okay. There you go.
Just make it
yeah.
bigger. Can you make it bigger?
Yeah, I gotta make it bigger.
So
Okay.
this is the idea. It's streaming tweets in real time. This is live. These were probably just happened a few seconds ago. And then someone would come on it, a user, and vote on it and get a reward for the vote. Also down below, there's The Twitter API lets you configure a stream.
Okay, so you're pulling it straight off of the Twitter API, what they're already flagging as potential?
So we just have keywords that we look for in the stream, and then we tag them. So you can see on the card offensive, LGBTQ hate, and perhaps there could be other categories. And we think it's a better breakdown for aggregation to the Twitter policy team to run further analysis.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, apologize for it.
Maybe we can remove that, yeah.
But I mean, it's also showing the real problems. It's not a,
Yeah, and it's
not a false representation of what's actually out there right now.
Right.
Judges, questions from the back of the head? Yeah.
So one thing that always worries me about having user feedback is what's to prevent a group of malicious users from coming in and saying, oh, say Taylor Swift posts, new album dropping next week, and then 100,000 people or bots or whatever just start hating on that, say, oh, this is hate speech, we're going to take it down. Like, how do you prevent that kind of malicious attack through this kind of service?
Yeah, so bots is an interesting question. I do generally think that people would vote in a good way. I think sort of just believing in the benevolence of humans to take down content that's not good. Yeah, but also I was going to say, again, an extension of this idea would be to use like Web3 technologies where you have a wallet and you vote on the idea and then you get a micro payment if you have, so maybe it's correctly classified and you voted yes, it was hate speech, and then you get a reward for it. So there's definitely room for an economic model to get the right behavioral incentives.
So you mentioned that, thanks for the presentation and the demo, by the way. You mentioned that you train your models using word embeddings from fast text.
Mm-hmm.
It's studied that and found out that word embeddings are pretty biased representations of words. For instance, in the hiring context, it's usually the vector woman is more associated with nurse and the vector man is more associated with doctor, right? My question would be, like, have you thought through how those biases would permeate into the prediction model that you're using, and how would you guard against that?
Yeah, so ultimately, I think that relies on the data that's available to train the model on, right? So that means there's a lot of emphasis on giving good data in the first place.
The moderation reinforces.
Yeah. Yeah, we're hoping that, the community moderation can like adjust the, any shortcomings that might be that clearly have been present in the data in the past.
So the idea also is that because it's a hackathon and we wanted to develop something really quickly, we used a pre-trained model that somebody else developed. So if you want to use it in a real life scenario, then what we can do is create your own model, invest the time and effort to remove these kinds of biases.
One more question. Have you thought through like how you would think about auditing this model for any potential biases? Like different types of language use, for instance. Like how would you go about doing that?
I think.
Well, that's the benefit of this kind of a model, because language is continuously evolving. So we can't stick with the same model for an extended period of time. So as the community or as the general population changes the way that we use words, changes the way that we use language, we would constantly need to keep improving these models. So that's my thought.
Yeah, we want the model to not be static. Like we want it to be, changing as we get better data.
And it could also be easily extended to after the tweet is flagged or after the user votes on it and it gets say 100,000 votes and there's a 70% chance that the vote is yes, it is hate speech, then that example will reinforce the model to make sure that it didn't make a mistake. Again, that was our idea, was that we wanted to have humans reinforcing the technology as opposed to just the technology making the decisions.
Thank you.
That's my user.
And it'll just take a second.
And I want to like shift to my demo as well.
Okay.
So this is my demo, and this is
Okay.
my presentation.
So let's do this then. Okay, and you're good to go. Yeah, so what you see there is what you see there.
I'm Durvash Badar, and I'm gonna present you a design for a modern website, which is for schools and educational institutions. And this gives a solution to the problems faced by students and kids to combat online hate, not just online hate, but also bullying and harassment. Being culturally different as a teenager and being part of an institution can be very challenging. It can be very tough. I was one of them and have experienced the first-hand damage from these types of behavior. And this is not just a story about me. Do you know that online hate and cyberbullying can affect over 50% of teenagers in the United States? And these numbers are not just numbers on a page. This is a reality, and it can affect countless of people. I've created a website, which is Anonymous Eyes, and it is designed to empower schools and educational institutions to combat hate. This website is user-friendly. It has a lot of key features. I'm going to go through it. It would be far easier to speak up and report incidents so the authorities can take action against them. It also provides resources and activities to make school an inclusive and safe place. I've also included a novel solution through lunch exchange, which I'm going to discuss later, but it helps to foster an environment of mutual respect and understanding. So I'm going to start with my demo. So this is our homepage. This is where students, faculties, and parents can report an incident. We encourage everyone to report and speak up. This website has some key features. First of all, you can see this button. This button is Report Now button. And this changes because it's a multilingual website. Why is it multilingual? Students and faculty are usually proficient in English, but we don't only need for students and faculty. I also need it for parents. And if we go through statistics, around 30% of immigrant parents are not proficient in English. So what about the other 70%? We want this website for everyone, not just students and for faculty, but also for parents to report an incident. Furthermore, one of the key features is that this website is scalable. You can open it on laptops. You can open it on mobiles, on your phones, and it will adjust automatically. Next is, these are 3 easy steps to report an incident. If you want to report it, you just click on this button. You will go on a form, which you can fill easily, very quickly. It has like different options. Whatever happened, you can describe the incident, you can choose it, file and evidence, and then submit it. Usually, students, when are filling these types of forms, they don't know what happens next. And I've included 3 easy steps in order to tell them what happens next after you file an incident. So how the authorities will take action, how the school will investigate it. Next is like sometimes it's like immediate danger. There's an emergency, so they have given you a number or call 911 to report an incident. And as we know, reporting an incident is not just the solution. We believe that prevention is a key. So for that, our website includes quizzes and activities, some resources, some events nearby. You can search in seconds. So for example, you can take a quiz, you can go on events. Just by clicking a button, you can register. There's some more FAQs. There's some resources like books and articles, some journal papers. You can search items in seconds and like prevent online hate and other types of bullying. The next key feature, which is a completely novel solution, no one has ever done this before, is a lunch exchange program. So as for the lunch exchange program, so as we know that lunches are served 5 days a week in schools. And all those 5 days a week, it's usually like a normal lunch, an American lunch. But what about the lunch from the minorities? What about the lunch from different cultures? So here, students and faculties can come together over a meal, which is hosted by members of minority community. And this is the best possible way to share food, eat on a table, and have critical dialogue. This will not only just break down the barriers between the students, it will also help to understand our school community better. So the lunch information is provided on the website, and not just about what is the lunch, but also like about that land. For example, this week, for example, once a week, Nepalese lunch was served. They also can know more about the land, about their culture, about anything famous about them. This will bring kids closer to each other. And when they are closer, this can not only just break down the barrier and combat cultural biases, but it could also directly influence online hate, like get less and less of online hate. The last step is a community forum. This is a live chat. Schools, students, faculties, and everyone can come together. They can share their experience. They can offer support. And this is a live chat. So this will be very much easier to combat those cultural biases and create a safe and inclusive environment. And I believe that joining this type of websites with anonymous eyes, it will be very easy to work together towards a better future, because students are our future. Thank you. I'm open to any questions.
Thank you, that was fantastic. Quick question about the reporting aspect. Since you can anonymously report, are those then delivered to anyone? If it's about a specific area, does that go to the local schools? What's your vision for that?
So my vision was to have this website separately for each school. So it goes directly to the school authorities. The school authorities will go through the incident, what happened, and then take actions against it.
Yeah, I agree. This was great, really beautiful website too. So I just want to make sure I understand the concept. So would the website live independently and then the reports would be routed to schools, or would each school adapt the website to its own?
So it's a multilingual anonymous website, but is under school authority. So every school has their own website. So that's because I also have lunch exchange program, and this is separate for each school, right? So in Pittsburgh, there might be a different minority community than a person living in Texas. So you see that every school needs to have their own website, and the school authorities will govern the website.
And then is lunch exchange just, it's sharing kind of the idea for a school of how it would do this, but it would have to figure out how to logistically implement it, right?
Yeah, they have to logistically, they need to know who is the minority community. The minority community will come forward and then participate in this program. So it will, like for example, there's 5 days a week, and then once a week, at least once a week, they can serve a lunch from a minority in order to come on the same table, have a critical dialogue, learn more about them, understand about them, understand about their culture, and then this can not only combat cultural hate, but also it goes when the kids grow up, they don't know about the other person, they don't know about the minority, and this can directly influence online hate.
Thanks.
HDMI is fine. Oh, okay, that works. Yeah.
Displays are extended.
Can I? All right, hi, I'm here, Damankar, and I'm presenting SpeechWatch. So SpeechWatch is a website and a companion browser extension which I made, which looks for, which analyzes content on YouTube and sees if it promotes hate speech or disinformation or any other harmful ideas, and also helpfully gives like a bit of a summary of what happens in the video. So the technology I used is OpenAI's GPT 3.5 and also NLTK's sentiment analyzer. So basically, my theory of change was that we know that the platform of YouTube has a lot of videos which might be like promoting hate or like disinformation or various other things that people might not want to watch. And sometimes, and oftentimes these are being promoted by the YouTube's algorithm. So people who are recommended a video might not even know that they're watching something hateful. They might not realize that what they're watching is biased in a particular way because they're just not thinking about like every little sentence that someone like, say, Andrew Tate is saying. So this website would help people like see exactly what is, what if anything is wrong with the content they're consuming and explain why it's wrong. And this can be also used for people who want to avoid hateful messages or people who want to moderate these messages. And I would like shy away from using a particular model to like harshly moderate, like for YouTube to harshly moderate themselves. But it would be good for something like a content filter for like a high school. So I'll do a demo. Sorry, the host that I'm using right now. Do I have to? Okay. This might be a bit slow for loading, but so we can do something like this. This is just a regular shorts video. So here you can see that this is, you can play the video and it gives you like a score from the sentiment analyzer. And this is, I've used a prompt that I've engineered a bit to, for the GPT to explain that this doesn't have anything harmful. I do have some, like, I went on a brand new YouTube, like on incognito mode, I went and looked through videos to see for myself if like I get recommended something hateful, and I found some of these videos. I can show you, for example, this one. It's not very like bad in terms of like the other ones, but it is a bit toxic. So let's see if this does it. Yeah, so you can see this is short by Andrew Tate. He says some bad things in it, so I'm not going to play it for you, but this shortly explains why this would be a bad video to watch. And this is kind of annoying, having to go back and forth between YouTube and this website. So what I did instead was I went to, I designed a browser extension. So let's just say, this one might not be a great example, but so I have this browser extension loaded. It's taking a while today. Oh, there was there. So this is Johnny Harris. He's a journalist. I would not expect this. You can read the description if you want, but Yeah, so this is one example, but if you went to, I don't know if, okay, let's try this one. So this is like another example. So yeah, maybe you need to work on the score part a bit, but you can see it says it contains hate speech and harmful ideas. And so if anyone wants to suggest a video, I mean, I don't know if the time-wise but okay, but basically this works, and this also works for long-form videos. How that works is I don't know if let's try this. So basically how that works is you, like, as you play it, it'll go through each section, and it should any minute now get, so this one may not be a good example. It's really short. But basically, as you go through each section, it'll load the next section, and it does 2 minutes at a time. Yeah. And then I guess the only other things I wanted to mention was I decided to make the browser extension because I thought going back and forth between a website and YouTube would be annoying. And this is just like a starting point, so you can integrate with other technologies also. So as long as you get the transcript from the YouTube, like from any video, you can like pass this through the same thing. So this can apply for TikTok, which is especially like problematic. And then you can also just put like Facebook text or Twitter threads. I haven't tested those out yet, but it would be the similar API. And one problem that you might think of is that people might say like GPT is like biased because it's a large language model, which is true, which is why I also don't think that this should be like used as a ground truth. But overall, over the past week that I've been spending using this, it's been like pretty good at noticing when something is a valid criticism of like a political candidate versus something that's going a bit too far into hate speech. And then, yeah, as my conclusion, I know YouTube's trying to work on this. These are like the top 5 results when searching hate speech on YouTube. They're all from Google or YouTube about what they're trying to do, but clearly it's not working. And you can see that in this NYT piece called Making of a YouTube Radical. It's a very interesting article. You should probably read it sometime, but it explains how someone can go through this alt-right pipeline, and this would attempt to educate people on what they're watching.
Thanks for the presentation and cool demo. I just had a question about how you might want to, or how you would estimate the performance of this, if you've looked into any data sets that are labeled perhaps of YouTube video transcripts, or if you have any other ideas of how you might do that.
I think the best way to do it would be to do like a study with like real world examples, but I haven't really looked into how it performs on like pre-labeled data. Yeah, with large language models, you can also like if you change the prompt, it like changes behaviors quite a lot, and it's also non-deterministic, which is kind of a problem. But I think overall, from the dozens of videos that I've watched while using this extension myself, I think it's done like pretty well in terms of like a subjective behavior.
Thanks. One quick clarification question. You had a score on top coming from the sentiment analyzer probably. Can you explain what that score means and how as a user I would use that?
Yeah, so I was attempting to like give a numerical version of whatever is described in the by the website or the extension. While testing, I made some changes to reduce the computational like overhead for that, which is why some of the scores are not very good right now. But basically, it was to get like get a summary of the summary. But I think that can be fixed easily.
Is the sentiment like 10 being like overly positive, 0 being
Yeah. So I added some transformation on NLTK's sentiment of like negative, neutral, and positive to like gauge around where it is.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'll have you plug in your flash drive right here for me. And go ahead and navigate to my computer right here. Oh, actually, here. I wish it was a touchscreen. And your flash is right there. And go ahead and pull it. And let's go ahead and we'll hit, yep, that guy right there.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Chinmaya, and I'm a doctoral student currently. My academic interests are in politics, public health, and social media platforms. And like any other doctoral student who doesn't know like what he's supposed to do after he graduates, I'm still like flexible in terms of like working in academia or like industry. But I want to work on like public health domain because that's what I'm like currently researching upon. So my topic actually is emergent need of an active measures working group in battling the spread of medical misinformation and hate on social media platforms for the Office of U.S. Surgeon General. Reason I chose the Office of U.S. Surgeon General is because a Surgeon General is a 4-star rank and a very important spokesperson in terms of like matters which connect to public health, which means like we, as people, listen to this person who's giving out information for the sake of greater good and benefit. So what are active measures? Basically, is defined as measures taken in information space and creating favorable narratives while discrediting the opponent. It's a proactive process, which basically you see the adversary's tactics and the narratives, and then you immediately like counterattack those narratives. And the speed and time is very important in this because you can be like I'm gonna counteract on this tactic of the adversary after 1 week. No, it doesn't work like that. Speed matters a lot. And misinformation is defined as false or inaccurate information propagated on a massive scale, which we see on a daily basis waged by Russia, China, and Iran on a massive scale. Why I think this topic is very important because, like I said, Iran, Russia, and China are escalating information warfare against America, creating anti-American narratives in public health and, for example, American vaccines being bad. And they do this through social media platforms like Gab, which is very, very infamous because it's being used by white supremacists, neo-Nazis, and people who are like very extreme far right. And the way to do this is manipulate, create narratives which would favor them and create like this anti-American narrative. In the Cold War period, this used to be executed by Soviet Union and East Germany in the context of AIDS through like biased publications. When I went on the website of the Office of Surgeon General, one of the priority areas, they said that misinformation is one of their priority areas. So I came up with like 4 objectives of the policy First, we provide like technical resources to the Office of U.S. Surgeon General for doing effective fighting against misinformation and hate. Second would be this group would be a collective of journalists, fact checkers, political scientists, sociologists, medical health professionals. Basically, we create a group which is diverse so that we have like opinions and strategies, thoughts, ideas from all people. Third objective, and this is like, I think the most important, proactively document, analyze, and expose every lie and every misinformation mechanism used by foreign adversaries. The more we do, we destroy their credibility on a global stage, and this is what America needs to do. And fourth objective is that all the findings are presented to the American people, president, and the intelligence community in an unbiased way so that we create like more chances, more communication, more opportunities for collaboration in understanding how adversaries work. So I recommend like this group should be funded like an initial $2 million so that they can scale up their operations. And as far as like the legality of this group is concerned, there used to be a group back in the 80s during the Reagan administration, which exposed Soviet Union's lies on AIDS. Basically, it was designed to discredit America and show that America was responsible for creation of AIDS in a lab at Fort Detrick in Maryland. This group had pretty good success and eventually put more economic pressure on the Soviet Union because they were spending more money carrying out these sophisticated techniques to carry out misinformation and spread hate on a global stage. The group, if it's being accepted, it would be well within the boundaries of the US Constitution and will not be a burden on the taxpayer. Like I said, $2 million it's a very small amount. Could be done. And we have to do this because we have enemies who push narratives which are dividing people based on color, gender, sexual orientation. And misinformation and hate has a relation because the more misinformation we have, the more hate gets spread. Like for example, conspiracy theories against Jews, like they're trying to control us through vaccines or anything else related to Jews. So this policy could help the Office of Surgeon General to work on its priority area, which is misinformation.
Thank you for the presentation. Have you thought about the fact that the surgeon, or have any ideas of how you'd handle with the fact that the Surgeon General's a political appointee? Does that have any impact with political issues that might come into the working group?
I don't think there will be any issues in that sort. So I understand that he's a political appointee, but in terms of like public health, he could be a Democrat, he could be like Republican, left-leaning, right-leaning, doesn't matter. You gotta be neutral when it comes to like issues concerned with public health, because we are the third most populous country on this world. People look towards us. The way we create narrative, the way we create perceptions, people look at us. We are a country of 332 million people, which means we gotta do a better job against our adversaries. No political alignment should come in this, and I don't think it will create issues for this group. The report I read did not have any specific names, like who were the ones working during the 80s, and I think it was very important because they had to like maintain confidentiality for protection of such people.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation. I had a question about how, if you've thought about how to balance amplifying those misinformation narratives by exposing them by such a high level, like the Surgeon General. There's evidence that this has to be done very carefully, otherwise this, even though you can say this is a wrong narrative, that narrative still can be amplified that way.
Could you repeat the question again?
Sure. I wondered if you've thought about how to balance whether to expose some narratives at such a high level, like at the Surgeon General's level, or sometimes maybe not, or do different things, because there's been some evidence that exposing misinformation and saying, this is a wrong narrative can still actually spread that misinformation when people read that and then sometimes don't read the warning label attached.
Right. So if we go to the previous slide, we present like the detailed findings of misinformation narratives being pushed to the president, and we take like his cabinet into account before taking like any action forward. So there will be like a vetting process in this, whether to like expose or not, and how much are we supposed to like expose. But my thought was like we keep this process transparent so that people know like what operations are being conducted by this active measures group, so that they know like where the $2 million which were proposed, are being spent, and research scholars can use like strategies like the findings which come out of this report.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Extended display mode, would you like to be duplicated? So what you see here is what you see there? Yes, please. Yes. Well, I have a thing that pops up, but it's not doing that. Okay. Let's see. System settings. And we need to navigate to display. Okay. And there we go. Thank you. And we're good to go.
Okay, thank you. Okay, hi, I am Amanda Catanzaro, and this is social empathy education, where we are learning to fight online hate with empathy and compassion. And there is just a little brief example of what our product would look like. So social empathy education would be a mobile application that could potentially be integrated into all social media platforms and all major smartphones. And again, just like our little tagline said, we aim to fight online hate by educating others through empathy and compassion. So what would happen is that if a hateful comment got posted online and then it got reported, the author of the comment would be given an empathy companion to talk to, and the companion would be carefully chosen based on like the author or user's comment. The user and the companion would then talk for 30 days in hopes of changing the user's views through non-judgment, compassion, and most importantly, empathy. And then at the end of the 30 days, that C companion would send a report back to the social media platform in hopes that progress has been made with the author/user, and that we are hoping that a friendship would be made, because that's how we can fight hate. So our theory of change, so how C can help, we aim to change how people see and interact with others. Change can only happen through personal relationships. And then I have two quotes that I love. One direct from the ADL is that transformation of individuals is going to occur in personal human relationships, and that's super important. And then another one direct from the Center for Compassion is that the path through this dilemma is to recognize and find the root cause for the hateful act so we can understand. So some of our users, we have the phrase keyboard warriors and online trolls. These are people that just behave aggressively online. They make derogatory remarks with the intention to provoke others. And then if more time is given, we would be able to do some usability testing with people to see whether this 30-day would be enough, not enough, to be able to form a friendship with someone. And then so why does it matter? So we have a statistic that 41% of Americans have experienced some sort of online harassment, and then people are targeted for numerous things, race, gender, identity, political views. And our goal was to get users to talk to someone that they would normally never talk to, so they can leave with empathy, compassion, and an understanding of diversity. And then I do have a demo here of what this would look like. Let me make this bigger. Oops. Hold on, technical difficulties, my apologies. Okay, so this is what the app would look like. It's just a simple messaging app. So what would happen is you get taken through this app, and this is your little robot companion that you could potentially have. I'm not going to go through and read all of this for you, but it's going to basically break down the process for you of what exactly is going to happen. And we're going to get to the next page. So it says that a hateful message written by you has been reported. Then you were given a companion at C, and then for the next 30 days, and you get to review your message to know that this is what you reported, this is what it says. And then you get your companion, and again, this companion is based on the comment that you made. So the comment that made was something about if you weren't American, then you shouldn't be in the country, so then we have a non-American that would then be talking to you. So again, the whole point of this is to talk to people that you wouldn't normally be talking to. And this companion would talk to you about how this process is going to work. We are going to talk for 30 days in hopes of forming this friendship. And then at the end of the 30 days, if hopefully progress has been made and we are able to form a relationship. It's just a simple messaging app. There's not much to it. We didn't want to overload the user or anything. There would be like a fact page, resources page, and a setting page as well. But again, basically, it is just your basic messaging app. That's all. Thank you.
I'm curious as to how would you recruit companions to have?
I'm sorry?
How would you recruit companions to have conversations with? Are they like specifically trained individuals or
So
people from the community?
I was thinking that the social empathy education could be like its own app and specific company, and I wasn't sure necessarily if these people would be volunteers or maybe they would be employed by the company, but these people, like their sole purpose would be to be the companion, so like there would be background checks and stuff like that, so it's not just your average person talking to someone else. They know what they're here to do, and they have a goal to form a relationship with someone else that they normally, again, wouldn't.
Right, and would there be like training programs around them to train them to have these conversations with people?
Yeah, I think so. Again, I hadn't, I'll be honest, I didn't necessarily think what that training program would look like, but I do think that is a fantastic idea, so yes.
Question also about the companions. Have you thought about the potential for abuse of these companions, I guess, with getting them in touch with people who have posted hateful messages? So any thoughts on that?
Right, that definitely can happen. I wasn't necessarily focusing on that. I'm hopeful that these companions are able to work through that with this person that they're working with, and they're trying to get to the root cause of why this other person is talking to them like that. In theory, I guess maybe down the future, if the companion is being abused by the user, then that can then be reported to the C company, and then that relationship would have to stop, unfortunately.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just wonder what is the incentive on the user? Like if we're targeting people who have posted hateful comments online, how are you going to get them to then use an app for 30 days to kind of work through this therapeutically with a companion? Like,
right. So I was thinking that potentially this could be launched like along with social media platforms, and that this would be something that has to be implemented. So that if that comments get reported, you're going to automatically have to have this companion to be able to continue then to use the app would be something that I was considering.
Great, thanks.
Just a quick follow-up on that. I think maybe you're looking at the wrong target here. Instead of social media, this might be a good tool for HR or something like that. You know, an employee is reported for offensive comments. They have to do this in order to maintain their employment. You know, something like that.
Okay, yeah, that's a very good idea. Thank you. Thank you.
Last but certainly not least, we have Rail Hunter, who's just coming to us, not on the pitch, but in front of everything. And then after this, so after they're finished, we're going to have a nice break. There's ice cream out there. We're going to relax for a little while. And then the judges will go off and deliberate, and then we'll be back. I'll give you sort of a warning when we come back, but Amy will right around 4 o'clock. Come back.
Hey, okay. So we make a pretty much, let me turn this on. So I'm Daniel, he's Alex. We made a Google extension called No Hate. So let me go through. So our main objective was pretty much to give users the option just to hide hate speech comments without infringing the freedom of speech of the perpetrators, the one that wrote those messages. So we pretty much build a simple Google extension. We just write a script using JavaScript and the user interface that activates and deactivates the extension. For that, it can be used in any website, Twitter, Reddit, indie hackers, Instagram comments, Facebook. Really, it could be used for anything. And here I have a quick demo. So the way I test this out is that I went to Reddit and I searched up best insults, so I can just get a lot of input for it. And I'm gonna show like the before and after you activate the extension. Yeah. So here you have all the comments, all the insults here. And let me just move forward. So in here you have the one where we activate the extension. And it just says hiding comment. You know that like sometimes it just doesn't work. Or it doesn't detect it as, let me forward this. You can just see, wait. Mess up this. It's wrong. Now let me go. I was trying to pause the video. So here you can see where it says, you're not a clown, you're the entire circus. Let me move this forward. So it just sometimes doesn't detect that that's an insult. It could be because how I made the model or the keywords that I put in it and just all of that. Just not super refined yet, but that's basically what it is. So I was thinking about the use cases of this. And this could be used, for example, like for high school, they could just install the extension. And if the kids are just doing research on anything, you just hide the comment. The person, for example, can choose what word to put instead of hiding comments in it. so the high school will be able to do that. Or if you're just looking through, let me give you another example with Reddit. If you're just looking through like some medical protein stuff and like experiences of people with the medical protein or vitamins or whatever, and you're looking through the comments and people are just insulting doctors and just putting hateful comments, you just activate that on so you can just put all your focus in the good comments. And yeah. So let me go through to the block diagram. So this is pretty much how it works. We collect the keywords, we scan the website for the context and just give input to the script. And after that, the user go to the user's interface and they decide if they want to just modify the website to hide the comments, or they want to take no action, just look through the website how it is. So these are our future steps. Pretty much more keywords and personalized keywords, so give the users the option to add keywords to the list, categorize types of hates, and introduce machine learning to it, and improve the website scanning, because right now we're just literally just looking through the HTML code, looking at the context, looking at what's written before, what's written after, what was the input of the person that do the post, if it correlates with the comments or not, and all of that. And yeah, pretty much the final idea of it is that Instagram already has a button that does this. There's already an extension for Twitter that does this. So give other platforms like LinkedIn, and I found out by just getting input from customers that on 9GAG, this could be something that will be really helpful for them. And just, yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Really, really interesting. Comments, questions?
Thanks for the presentation. Cool browser extension. How did you choose your list of keywords?
So I use different protocols, for example. So I use ChatGPT to get a list of keywords. Then I went to Kaggle, get a list of keywords and just sentences and phrases over there too. And just pretty much looking through the internet, getting input.
Okay, thanks.
How did you validate your approach in a sense that I can see from a commenter's perspective if my comments are being flagged as hate speech and no people are seeing it, but being falsely tagged as hate speech, so false positives, how would you evaluate your model to reduce the false positive rate to not infringe upon the
Just adding a customers the option to put the keywords in it. So if they put the keywords in it that they want to be flagged, they want to be flagged or they want not to be shown, that just validates because it just takes off those keywords, and if they want to add more, they will add more, and their list will be saved. So it will be, because my idea was to save the list depending on the website that you are in. So let's say if you're like on a subreddit about health and you add, I don't know, some word to the list, that list gets saved for that specific website, and just, yeah, iterate through that.
Thanks.
Brian, thank you so much. Any more thank yous to do? We're just going to take a break right now. And thank you to everybody for hanging in there. All these great presentations. I'm really excited. So eat some good food. There should be ice cream out there. It's our networking social hour. And we will holler when it's time to come back in here in a little while, probably about, hopefully 30, 45 minutes. We'll call you back there. All right, is everybody inside here? Any stragglers? I'm telling you, that ice cream is just going to keep melting. So on your way out, just get another scoopful, take it to go, good dinner, you know, eat it on the bus. It's all good to go. I don't know. All right, so I want to start just by saying a few thank yous to people that put in a lot of work to make this happen. So starting with Michael Kozar, has been running our sound and tech, dealing with 30 different presentations today. We're big fans of, as well as some other people that aren't in the bulletin, which is my postdoc Erjan, as well as Adele and Andrew, who've been helping out with all the work in getting all the tables and everything organized. So thank you so much for them, and a few other student workers as well that I think I forgot to name. And then a few other thanks. We have lots of thanks here. Any advisors that stuck around with us all day today that are still here? I don't know if anybody's still here. Well, thank you to all our advisors here. I know not all of them, but I know some of you had really good, raise your hand if you actually reached out to an advisor and worked with them over the course of the week. That's so awesome. I'm so glad to hear that. I would love, if you had any feedback on that or any thoughts, I would love to hear about how that went. I'm actually going to be, not today, but next week I'm going to send out a little sort of review for you to sort of survey sort of how everything went, what we could do better next year. I'm so glad you actually reached out to them. I hope they were really successful and made some good relationships there. Judges, can you stand up for a second for me so we can thank you very much here? Thank you so much for putting up with all the different things and making the hard decisions. And last but not least, my colleagues that I've worked with since, I don't know, I think October we started talking about this hackathon. And this is Nora, Beth, Sienna, and Susan. Could y'all stand up, please, as well, who represent the 5 different groups here. And this is really a collaboration. And one thing I was really passionate about, Beth and I joked that we've been doing sort of hackathons or makeathons in different ways in the last couple of years to various degrees of success. And one thing that I really enjoyed about this was not just coming to the end point, but getting to collaborate along the way and learning how our different institutions can work together and that we're all really close to each other. And there's people, not everybody wants to do responsible computing or tech ethics or countering online hate. Like some people just want to make money, and I'm not going to judge people. It's just how it goes. But I think there's a lot of people that do want to work in this. They want to work for social goods. They want to help to combine a passion for making society better with doing work in the field of computing and technology. And it's really been a pleasure for me to work with these groups across campuses and really learn a ton in the process. So thank you again. And without further ado, so we have 2 prizes per track. So we'll start with the policy side. The runner-up track is sponsored by, we were just going to have a grand prize in each one, but there was a project that came out of Duquesne last year called the Emerging Leaders in AI and Digital Stewardship, sponsored by the Rangos Awards. And so they were able to sponsor a runner-up prize called the Common Good Award, which apparently I put twice up there. It's been a long day. But in the policy track, the runner-up prize goes to Tackling Online Hate with Hate Hygiene Index. Can you stand up, please? Stand up, please. Congratulations. Congratulations. We were just really impressed with your thoughtfulness of your proposal, all the work you put into it, and how you really thought how this could be implemented across a wide impact layer and what that could do for the country and for online hate in general. So congratulations for that. All right, go ahead and you can have a seat there. And with all of these awards, I'll be in touch early next week on Monday with the further details there. All right, the grand prize for the policy track goes to the Protecting Victims of Hateful, Non-Consensual Deepfake Pornography. Go ahead and stand up, please. Stand up, please. Miles, Ryan, Emmeline, and Dan. One thing that really stood out to the judges about your proposal was the applicability to do something now. And that's something that hasn't really been addressed and in a really good way, and tying it to some other pieces that have already been addressed and saying, how can we take a small next step, something that could be sustainable over time? So really, really grateful to you and that work. And everybody in the policy track, it was a lot of really strong proposals that we were really, really happy with. One other thing I'm going to do next week too is the judges are going to send me some comments over the weekend and next week that I'm going to then pass along to all the groups. Because all of you groups, I'm going to have a poster competition here. We're going to have a fall symposium on generative AI and tech ethics like ChatGPT and image and video. And there'll be a poster competition, $75 just for getting your poster accepted, and $500 awards for first place in that. So all of you are invited. That's a great place to do your next step there. Okay, I'm still jabbering on, and you're waiting for more prizes. Here we go. All right, on the tech track, the runner-up Common Good Award goes to Hater Deflator Swipe to Post, Emily and Tessa. You know, one thing that judges really liked about your proposal was similar to what we said in the policy track. It was sort of a small next step, but it was really well thought through. You thought through a lot of the backstory. You thought through what the problem was. And even though it didn't seem like a huge piece, it was really well researched as to what's all the different aspects of UX, what are all these different ways that we interact online, and what's a small change that we can make that might really make a difference and might really impact this technology. So wonderful job with that. Wonderful job with that. All right, and then the final prize of the day, the grand prize award on the tech track, goes to Speedwatch Video Browser Extension by Mihir Damanko. You know, Mihir, no project is perfect. Obviously, there were still some bumps you were figuring out along the way. But similar to the other ones that got awards today, what we really liked was, you know, not trying to tackle everything at once and saying, here's a problem, here's an easy piece we can add on to it that gives people more knowledge, that allows people to understand what's going on, and especially by utilizing current technologies, by utilizing, you know, some of the AI that's been coming out and text generation, by trying to work through what does it mean to code things, what does it mean to have numbers attached to these pieces. It was a really thoughtful product that has a lot of promise, and that could continue to be fine-tuned as you go forward. So once again, my biggest thank you to all of this is all the competitors here. There are a lot of people that signed up that didn't actually, you know, go through and submit things. Maybe they were intimidated by all the documents that I sent you on the first day of the hackathon. Maybe it was too many pages, who knows. But I really appreciate y'all pushing through. These were a lot of really fantastic products. And even if you didn't win one of these awards, I do want to, you know, we are going to send some feedback to you on how to continue to work with it. I really want to encourage you, whether you're a grad student or undergrad student, to submit a poster for the fall. And we're going to be doing another hackathon next spring. So it's going to happen next year. So keep working at it and tell people about it and just continue to work in this space. So thank you all so much for all the time put in today and all of this past week. It's been a really joy to work with all of you, and I look forward to working with you further. So thanks again. And like I said, make sure you grab your t-shirts and grab food and ice cream. We can't send that back, so you might as well take it. All right, have a great night, everybody. Thanks again for everything.